I was going to clean the house, but then I remembered all of the female art that has been lost to housework over the centuries, so I owe it to feminism not to do this shit. If you wanted to, you would. Stop making excuses for things and actually get on with them. If you wanted to be a writer, you would be writing. Here's how to stop talking shit and start getting on with it. I don't have time to write. If you wanted to, you would. I said that at the beginning. If you wanted to, you would. Make writing a priority and you will magically find the time for it. Everyone makes time for things that are on their to-do list. If you're struggling to find the time for things, you can use a method I use called calendar blocking. You block out specific chunks of time on your calendar and you do the task in that chunk of time. For example, 8:30 to 5, I'm at work. 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. is my morning routine, or will be my morning routine. I'm making it my morning routine. February is the month I become a morning person. I'm doing it. And then I have things like filming on there, editing on there, cooking, eating, cleaning, because I always forget to clean things because I don't like to. So I put it on my list. It becomes a priority and magically I have time to do it. Writing is one of those things that needs to go on your to-do list. If you don't have time for it, here's ways to find time. As I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, wake up earlier, become a morning person. I know nobody wants to do that, but after the first few weeks, after the first few weeks, you will get used to waking up early. There was a time I was commuting from Lincoln to Worksop when I was working in Lincoln but having to stay with my parents in Worksop, and I had to be up every morning at 5 a.m. to catch the train to get here at 8 o'clock to be ready for work on time. I was very tired. But as the time went on, I found I needed less and less sleep. I got used to those hours of sleeping. I naturally started waking up at about 5, half 5 every morning, even at the weekends. You get used to sleeping at these times. If you're not a morning person, be a night owl. If you're at uni, for example, you're more likely to be awake at night than you are in the morning. So stay up late and get some writing done at night. Use your commute time. Throw back to when I was commuting from Worksop to Lincoln, I would use that hour to and from work to write. I would take my tablet or a notebook and I would write in that time. Another time I would use to write would be my lunch breaks. I would go into the break room and I would scribble some things down in my notebook, using that time to my advantage. Asking for private time at home. Ask your kids, your partner, your husbands, your wives, your parents, your grandparents to just get out of your way and leave you alone for a bit. Don't bug me unless you're on fire, shut yourself away and get some writing done. Happy self means happy at home. The people that you love need to recognise that sometimes you need to look after yourself, and if looking after yourself means writing and getting on with something you love, that's what it's got to be. You've got to have your own things, otherwise you become this shell of a person that's constantly giving out to other people. Tell them to mind their business and get on with your own things. An hour every couple of days just to get on with something you love on your own, in your own private time, is not too much to ask. Always carry a notebook. You never know when you're going to find an extra 20 minutes. You never know what 10 minutes is going to be the 10 minutes where you get that golden idea that turns into something more. I'm not qualified to write. Who is? What does that even mean? So it's giving yourself permission to be creative. Carrie Hope Fletcher did a really good video on this a while ago when she was writing All I Know Now. She was considering getting a degree in English literature that would make her more qualified to write her book. There is no such thing as having a qualification to be creative. I have an MA in creative writing. It was a waste of my time. To be qualified to be creative means you have to be creative. That's all you need. You don't need someone else telling you, yes, you are qualified, you've worked hard enough, you can be creative now, welcome to the club. You don't need that. You don't need that energy around you. Write, and that's how you become a writer. I can't seem to find the motivation. Then you never will. Motivation isn't something that just runs up to your door and knocks on it and you're like, you need to be ready to write now, you need to be ready to write now. That's not something that happens. I'm very rarely motivated to write unless I'm about 2,000 words in and I get overexcited and they keep going. I always have to make sure it's part of my routine. That's why it's on my to-do list. Things I remember to do every day. I remember to wake up, I remember to eat, I remember to clean things, I remember to go to work. I don't have the motivation to do any of those things, but they're on my to-do list for the day, which makes sure they get done. Writing is also on my to-do list, which means it gets done. Once it becomes part of your routine, you know, so 5 a.m. till 6 a.m, that's my morning routine. 6 a.m. till 7 a.m, that's when I write. It will just fit in. Your brain will change and you will get into those habits and you will go, right, I'm in writing brain now. This is what I need to do at this time. Make it a routine, make it happen, and you will be fine. I'm afraid of rejection. Everybody is. It's a normal thing. But every author you've ever loved, every story you've ever read has been rejected tens of hundreds of times. It just means you haven't found the right person to back you yet. You need a literary agent and you need them to go down knocking doors for you. Rejection is just part of the game. If you're in the creative industry, you are going to get rejected at some point. Once you develop that thicker skin and understand that mindset, you can get into it. It's a business at the end of the day. Knocking down those doors to get into that business is going to be hard because there are lots of people knocking down those doors. But you need to knock harder, louder, and for longer, and then you'll get through. Don't give up on it. I don't know where to start. Beginning, middle, end, literally anywhere will do as long as you're writing something. I like to write historical crime fiction, so where I usually start by writing the murder, and then I know what clues to leave behind as I start writing everything else. Sometimes I have this amazing idea for a scene that I want to be in the middle of a book I'm writing somewhere, so I will just start writing that scene if I can't be asked to pick up from where I am. I'll weave it in somehow, but at least I'm writing. Putting it together and making it look like you knew what you were doing all along comes in the editing process, not in the first draft. The first draft is supposed to be a mess, then you fix it later on. I don't know if I'm good enough. Nobody ever does, but you've got to back yourself because no one else will. You've got to be sure in what you are writing. You've got to have your own back. Everyone has moments of self-doubt. Everyone reads something they've written and gone, that is pure piss. But to make it not pure piss, work on it even more. Make it something you're, I would say, about 80% happy with, because if you keep going until you're 100% happy with, you'll never get it finished. So go with 80% happy with, and then let it go. Let it go. Let it go. Finding that extra 20% is going to be a waste of your time. You can write 80% of what you're supposed to be writing in 20% of the time and spend 80% of your time on that project worrying about the 20% left. Fuck the 20%. Fuck it. Tell it to go away. Write until you're 80% happy and then go, do you know what? I'm okay with that. You have to find that cut-off point and go, all right, I'm happy with this now. I'm 80% happy with this. If I keep working on it, I'm not going to get any happier because this is my work now. Farewell. Practice makes you better at something. Keep going, keep reading, keep learning, keep practicing, and you will become more confident in what you are writing. You'll find your own voice, you'll find your own style, and you will continue, and you will be brilliant. Keep going. There always seems to be something in the way. Move it. If it's a child, move it into another room. If it's a relative that's doing your head in, move it to another house. A quote to live by probably the only decent teacher I had in my creative writing course, and I only had her for 3 lessons. This woman is hilarious. Her name is Sarah Stovall. She's Sarah Loves Crime on Twitter, and this is what she say. I was going to clean the house, but then I remembered all of the female art that has been lost to housework over the centuries, so I owe it to feminism not to do this shit. You might feel like you're too young to know what you're doing. I've been writing since I was 6 years old, making up stories about my horse who would go on adventures with the other horses in her field. They would go to the cinema, they would go for a picnic. They had a great time. I still have the copies of the stories because I gave them to my stepdad for his birthday once. Skill comes with experience, so the earlier you start, the earlier you can put in your 10,000 hours that takes you to become a master of something. There is an element of experience which comes from being older, but the younger you start, the earlier you will find your voice, you will find your passion, and you will find what you're interested in writing. Life takes you on a journey, but you've got to start somewhere. Same with, I'm too old to start. No one's too old to start. No one's too old to start learning a new skill. There was this allegory that I heard of an old man who was 70 years old, who was signing up to medical school to become a doctor. And a young man at the front turned around to him to say, aren't you a little bit too old to start doing this? This course is 10 years long. The old man turned around and said, in 10 years' time, I will still be 80. I can either be 80 and have achieved something, or be 80 and nothing will have changed. So you're never too old to start doing something you love. Never. That's about all I've got for this one. If you have any excuses that you continuously put in front of yourself to stop yourself writing, put them in the comments section and I will happily tell you why. You need to write things. I believe in you.